What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, of course, USC ends up staying at number 7 overall in the AP poll and the coaches poll. They actually moved up in the coaches poll. They were down a little bit more compared to last weekend, but it's only because they did end up beating Fresno State 45-17. It was a very nice victory. I still think, like how a lot of the people are saying, especially coaching wise, that they're leaving a little bit out there. They're not like fully reaching their potential, just because there's a lot of times where they will be on fire and score like 4 straight times, and then all of a sudden get stopped or not be able to score anything for like another couple drives after that. So it is kind of interesting how it's going. It's easier to get by certain teams that they have been playing, but when they do it to other tougher teams, especially like one of their next opponents who beat them last year in Oregon State, might be tougher. But I think we also found out some news that some of their better players from Oregon State will not be playing in that game, even though it's going to be up there in Oregon. It's going to be kind of still tough, just depending on the weather. And every other couple times USC's been up there, it's always been a tough go. They kind of upset, especially 2 times ever since I've been a USC fan. Every time that was a good USC team, they upset them. So, and it's going to be on the Pac-12 network, so it's not even going to be where everybody can see them do it, but I'm pretty sure it will be all over the place if it does end up happening. But yeah, they also said that they're pretty much setting a record when it comes to points-wise. With that, their total is at around 152, which means that they are tied or kind of similar on pace with that team in 2005 that ended up beating Oklahoma in the national championship game. So it is kind of good to see that, but it is against crappier competition, so I'm not really looking too much into that, but it's still a cool stat. And yeah, once again, Caleb Williams did play very well. I think he only had like 1 touchdown pass, but he had like at least 2 rushing. And then the other guys, Travis Dye and Austin Jones, stepped up. They both had over 100 yards rushing as running backs and had a touchdown as well. So they did step up. And the defense ended up getting still 2 takeaways. Ended up having like a couple nice sacks toward the end of the game as well, and even finished off the game really well with some of the backup defenders in there right at the 1-yard line, where Fresno State was trying to get at least one more score to bump up the scoring average to 20, because they were still stuck at 17, but luckily USC did stop them, and it was a nice momentum builder going into the next game. But yes, hopefully USC does end up getting up, as they say, for that game this weekend coming up on the road. Should be very, very interesting, so definitely looking forward to that this weekend coming up. And of course, a lot of reports coming out about Justin Herbert are saying that he does have a chance to play in this game Sunday against the Jaguars, which is actually going to be a pretty good matchup, because the Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken, no, they're 1-1, but their first 2 games they played very well. They could have won that first one, and they just shut out a team that they should have lost to badly by, in the Colts. But yeah, it should be very interesting to see what Trevor Lawrence can do. But I think people are just saying that, especially a lot of like the reporters, that he has a chance to play. It's not even 100%. They haven't even heard I haven't heard anything from the head coach or anything from the team. So obviously anything coming out right now is not 100% true. It's just to get some news out there. It's probably a slow news day, even though there's 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. Should be pretty interesting. But what's also interesting is that the guy who has been working on Justin Herbert's rib cartilage, or whatever they're calling his injury, it's not like a fracture of his full rib, it's somehow the meat or something in there. That's the same guy a couple years ago in 2020 is the main reason why Justin Herbert is a starter for the Chargers actually so quickly, because in that week 2 game right before they had to play the Chiefs, he injected the starting quarterback at the time, Tyrod Taylor's ribs, and he ended up puncturing one of them or something like that, which took him out the whole entire year. And he was eventually sued by Taylor. I don't know if it's still going on. It could still be going on. I thought there was like a $5 million settlement or something like that. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy that that guy is still working for the Chargers. He's working with, your prized possession, your future, and you're trusting him to not screw up again like how he did. So maybe he's not 100% hands-on, which is probably a good thing, but it is still kind of concerning if you are a Chargers fan. But yeah, overall, we'll see what happens. Hopefully he can have a chance to play. And both the NBA and the NBA Players Association are kind of expected to agree on lowering the age limit for when players can come into the NBA. So right now it's set at 19, which is pretty much why most of the talented players out of high school do go to college for 1 year, because then after that 1 year you become 19 when the draft shows up. But now it's been going to be lowered down to 18, like how it was before they set this rule up in like the mid 2000s, something like that. Which could be good and could be not good, just because I understand it for a lot of the top players. I just wish like both the NFL and NBA would do like a system, because the NBA kind of does it when it comes to European players, where they'll draft them. They call it draft and stash, where they'll draft a player, have his rights, and when he's ready to come over, when he feels like he's ready to come over and play in the NBA, then he comes usually a year or two after he is drafted, when he gets a little bit older or a little bit stronger, whatever. But the NFL doesn't do that, which I think they should, especially because some of these guys end up not playing at all. And if you just kind of want the rights to be able to have that guy under contract for the first couple years of his career, I think that's good, so that he could go back if he wants to, and all this other stuff, especially for like the later picks in the draft or guys who end up not getting selected in the draft as well. I think they should be able to have an opportunity to go back. But it's also kind of, all the news you're going to just pretty much hear about is the fact that now it's an easier path for LeBron to be able to play with his sons, even though it's like he would still have to wait, another 2 years maybe for his oldest, Bronny, and then at least another 4 more years until his younger son, Bryce, who is almost looking like a better player than the older one. But I don't know. I don't know if LeBron's going to play that long, and I would hope he's not going to play that long for the Lakers, but you just never know, I guess. So it should be interesting. And then 2 USC players, according to the On3 network or whatever internet site that is, they're a recruiting website, but they were recently bumped up to officially 5-star recruits, and I think the quarterback Malachi Nelson was ranked higher at number 21, and then the wide receiver Zachariah Branch from Las Vegas is ranked the number 5 overall player coming out of high school next year. So it's pretty good stuff for some of the top guys coming to USC next year. Kind of wondering why Mekhi Lemon, the other top wide receiver that USC has, isn't ranked up there, but maybe he just hasn't put up enough stats, even though it looks like he's playing better than even his quarterback, because he is returning punts and kickoffs for touchdowns as well. So maybe he does get it. You never know. And then, according to this one company, I guess they've been working with USC football for every point they score. Technically, a full 7 points. I guess they say the 6 points for the touchdown and then the kick to add the extra. So usually it's usually 7, but if they miss the kick, then I guess it's just 6. But I guess their deal is that every time they score or the points added up, they're gonna they're gonna plant trees in its place. So that's kind of cool. So as of right now, they're up to like 140. So they're going to be planting around that many trees. But I also did see a report that a lot of really high-powered companies say that they're going to do this. Like, oh, yes, if you support this, then trees are being planted here and there. And it ends up being nothing, that I've learned from John Oliver on HBO. So hopefully this is a real thing and it's not a fake thing. But USC is a powerful company at the end of the day. So you never know. Then 2 ex-USC players are joining Boulevard once again to become the brand ambassadors. I don't know exactly what they're doing. We still don't know exactly what they're doing, but a couple pretty much ex-recent guys. Frosty Rucker, who was a defensive end, and also Lofa Tatupu, who was a linebacker, who was a little bit right before my time, but I do remember him playing with Seattle and stuff in the NFL. Really good guy, and he was actually at the game to lead them out of the tunnel right before the game this last weekend, so that was pretty cool for him as well. But they're joining Boulevard to help out, I guess, with recruiting or NIL deals, like I've been saying, so we'll see how that goes. And then, according to this post, USC is projected, I'm assuming now this kind of makes it official that the Rose Bowl is not part of the Final Four, which is kind of cool, because they do have a matchup with a Big Ten team in this Rose Bowl game, because they project USC to go to the Rose Bowl. And then they're playing Michigan, which I'm assuming Ohio State makes the Final Four from the Big Ten, and Michigan is number 2. team coming out of there, and they look pretty good. They're a top 3 or 4 team as of right now, ahead of USC. But I'm assuming they believe in the future that they will lose to Ohio State. But whenever it's been USC, I've at least seen 2 USC and Michigan Rose Bowls in the past, and it always seemed like they talked up Michigan so much that they were going to beat USC, and then USC handles them pretty easily, and it's not that close of a game. So I think this one might be a little bit closer. It could be a better matchup than some of the Final Four playoff games, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. And then speaking of Boulevard, that company's been working with a lot of USC athletes, but especially the football players as well. Apparently right after the game, they put out a video saying that they set up an NIL deal with some electric scooter company where they're gifting like 100 plus electric scooters to a lot of the football players to be able to scoot in and around the campus and stuff, which is pretty cool. And especially with the idea, with the finding out the price of the scooters are like about $400. So, I mean, it's a nice free gift that these guys are getting, and they don't have to mess up their legs or walk that much, to make them tired throughout the week. So that's pretty cool for them as well. And then the ex-USC basketball player, Benny Boatwright, has jumped around European leagues and NBA as well, but he did sign a deal with the Indiana Pacers to maybe try to make the bench, because it's not like he's going to be a starter, but it is a nice team to go in after, because they look like they might be trying to get rid of other players like Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, so there could be other roster spots open. He could have some chance to play later in the year, so good luck to him, because he is a pretty good player when he was at USC. Now, a couple of ex-USC NFL players did really well. Once again, a couple of the same guys, but these were the main guys that stood out to me. Amon-Ra St. Brown is once again looking like he should have been an obvious first-round pick. I had him wanting to go to the Chargers in the 2nd or 3rd round. He wasn't selected until the 4th or 5th by the Detroit Lions, and of course he's just proving everybody wrong, because what did he have this weekend? He had 9 catches for 116 yards. Also ran the ball. He had 68 rushing yards. I think he got one of them on a big play for like 58 yards. And he also had 2 touchdowns. So this dude is literally doing everything for this team. And they actually won the game this last weekend. So that was pretty cool for them. But overall, yes, once again, a guy that I was correct about, that the Chargers weren't. But here we go again. What else is new? And then Nelson Aguilar was a guy that I said that the Chargers maybe should look to trade for him and during the offseason, just because not only is he a USC player, but he's a guy that I don't think has gotten a fair shot on certain teams he's been on. And when he did get a shot with the Eagles at one point, he was a really good producer when catching the ball, but for some reason they never gave him a chance. And then for some reason he blew up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this last weekend. He had 6 receptions, over 100 yards, like 110, and 1 touchdown that he had a big play on where he pretty much mossed the guy where he stole the ball from the defender and scored the touchdown. So it was a pretty cool highlight. But yeah, once again, another sneaky guy that could have been on a roster of my team. But good luck to him. That's awesome for him. It's great to see. And then Drake London, the rookie drafted by the Falcons, he had 12 targets, which was the highest on the team. So they were looking at him a lot. But he also had 8 receptions, which is also the highest on the team. 86 receiving yards, which was the highest on the team that game, and he also threw in a touchdown as well. So very productive, really good to see. It was crazy how they were in LA facing the Rams. I even thought they were going to get blown out, and for some reason it was like a 1-score game, and he ended up scoring that late touchdown as well. So overall his stats look good, and for some reason they're looking at him more than the guy that they drafted last year before him, and Kyle Pitts, who was even picked higher at number 4 overall. But overall, it's a good thing, because this guy is very talented, and he's in a good situation, especially to be the number 1 guy. Apparently, it's what it looks like. And then a couple things to finish this off with some miscellaneous news. Yes, Keanu Reeves is returning to play John Constantine in the 2nd Constantine movie, which is pretty cool. Found that out through HBO Max or something like that, so I don't know if it's going to be just for HBO Max or released in theaters, but I know the same director is returning, Francis Lawrence, who I pretty much knew from that movie, but then he also went on to do like two or three of the Hunger Games movies, which was what he was kind of known for as well. He did something else, but yeah, he's still a good director, so it's be pretty cool to see who else they can bring back. I know they could bring back maybe Shia LaBeouf. You never know, because he was still in that movie, and in a scene that was cut out, he was supposedly the angel Gabriel at the end of the movie. So he could be the guy who watches over him or gives him advice, but you never know, because Shia LaBeouf is kind of crazy nowadays. And then to end this video off, yes, apparently last night I know a lot of people aren't going to like the story, but whatever, I still like some of his movies. But Woody Allen, apparently, in an interview, somebody assumed, a lot of people went off on their articles and stuff and the headlines saying that he is retiring, that he is officially done after this movie, which will be his 50th movie that he is releasing. But apparently the next day, he's now even trending on Twitter and stuff from Variety. And even Variety says he is retiring, but then in the very first sentence it says, oh, he's not retiring, which is, I guess everybody misconstrued what he said, that he doesn't want to make movies that are just going to be going on to streaming services. He likes the movie theater going experience, so if he can't make a movie, then he's probably not going to, if it's not going to end up in theaters somewhere. And people thought he was going to retire to write a book or something. He's in his 80s, so he might as well retire instead of making movies. But if they're going to give him money and he can somehow get past the controversy that he has, then I guess he's still going to do it. But apparently his next film is based in France, and I think it's going to be all French spoke, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see a movie full of a different language than most of his other movies. And he says it's on par, at least story-wise, with Match Point, which is one of my favorite movies from him as well. Very, very cool movie. So we'll see how that goes. So I guess as official, he's not retiring, but he's probably going to have to at some point, because most people aren't going to want to make a movie with him eventually, and that's just how this is going to go. But other people can still be fans of other stuff that are kind of shady and do other stuff as well. So it's kind of weird how the world works nowadays, but that's just how it is, because it's Hollywood. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.